What's up everybody, how you doing out there? So in this video today we're going to be making a very controversial pasta dish. Forgive me if I don't pronounce it right, but carbonara, or if you're a white boy like me, carbonara, right? But the thing about this dish is there's a lot of people that make it incorrectly. And so those that are purists, when they see that, they have a fit. And they're like, you're doing it wrong. That's not how you make it. I'm going to show you, to the best of my ability, on how to make it correctly. All you Italians out there, Romans and whatnot, you can tell me if I'm doing it wrong or not. But right now I've got a pot of water boiling with a little bit of salt in it, just like I'm going to make an ordinary pasta. And the type of pasta that we're going to end up using in this is this right here. It's basically like regular spaghetti, except it's thicker, right? And you traditionally you use something like this, okay? But I've also seen people use things like rigatoni and whatnot. I've seen people use angel hair, but you're not really supposed to do that. This is probably going to be the closest thing that you can get to authentic. So this is what we're using, and it doesn't cost any more than any of the other stuff. So this is what I'm going to be using for that. I'm only going to be making this for one person, my wife. So if you're going to be making it for more people, just end up adding some more. Okay, this is one of the controversial things right here. This is what's known as guantanade. Okay, and this right here is the cheeks, right? It's part of the part of the face of the pig, and this is cured, but this is not cured like bacon, and because of that, when people end up trying to make a carbonara and then they end up they're using bacon, that's a big no-no because it's smoked, right? This typically is not smoked. Okay, this is cured, but it's not smoked. Then some people, when they're in a pinch, they'll use pancetta, right? Which, if you're in a pinch, I guess you could do it. But wherever you get pancetta, you can get this most of the time. I ended up getting this from a butcher shop. So it was 17 bucks for this large piece, but this can make enough for, 4 families. And I'm going to use this for some other things later on down the line. But I'm going to end up, since it's only going to be for one person, I'll probably only end up using maybe like that much over here. That shows you, how little you need for this. But we need this for the flavor. We need it for the flavor, we need it for the fat. Next thing, some people like Parmesan. They say use Parmesan. You don't use Parmesan, you use pecorino. But in a pinch, can you end up using Parmesan? Well, in a pinch. Right, just like the pancetta and stuff like that, okay? But it's better to go traditional, and if you're going to do it right. So we're going to use pecorino. We need an egg. When we're dealing with the egg, some people end up using just yolks, and then some people use the whole egg. I'm going to be using the whole egg. One of the things that you should be kind of thinking about when you're doing this is the sauce that we're making is almost kind of like a mayonnaise, right? It's almost like a mayonnaise. We end up having oil or fat that's going to be coming from the guanciale that we're going to mix with cheese, and then we're going to mix with an egg, and we're going to mix with water. The egg acts as an emulsifier to help mix the water as well as the fat together, and then the cheese is also inside. So it's kind of like a cheesy mayo with no vinegar in it, or lemon juice, because mayo sometimes we'll put lemon juice too. So this essentially is it, along with some black pepper. This is also one of those dishes that you want to serve while it's still warm, right? So as soon as it comes off the stove and it's done, that's when you want to serve it. You don't want to make this ahead of time and then try to, reheat it and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off, because it's only for one person, but at the same time, something? I have a tendency to think that you should be generous with meat if you're going to be cooking for somebody. So if you want to add more, hey, I'm not going to say nothing. You're going to end up changing the oil ratio though. But I think for one person, this is probably good enough. One of the things you probably noticed is I didn't bring up cream. Just because a sauce looks creamy, people a lot of times think that there's cream in it, but there is no cream. Okay, the way that the eggs emulsify with the cheese and the water is what makes it look like there's cream in it, but there is no cream. If somebody puts cream in a carbonara, it's wrong. And I say carbonara, right? But I'm not a native Italian speaker. But what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to end up cutting this into little pieces here, and we're going to put this in a frying pan. And I'm not making these pieces too big. Some people might even cut it thinner than this, but this is going to end up getting rendered down. So I'm sorry, Marilyn, I shouldn't be cutting your face. But we want to render the fat out of this, and we want it to be crispy, but we don't want to burn it. So the way you do that is you just cook it at a lower temperature. So you don't want to go much higher than a medium low. So as far as I'm concerned, for one person, that should be fine. So let me throw this inside. Let me go ahead and throw this inside our skillet. We are going to end up mixing the cheese with the egg, and because of that we need to have this grated fairly fine. So I'm going to end up using this grater right here. I don't really want to use a large one. You could probably get away with a large one if that's all you got, but the smaller it is, the easier it is going to be for it to melt. So let me open this guy up. I'm going to grate that into the egg, okay? Right now I'm letting the guanciale, I'm letting that cook at a low temperature, and I'm just going to let it kind of sweat, right? I'm going to get that oil out, but I don't want to burn it. So let me just take this over to the side here, and I'm going to start going crazy with this. Some people will say that Parmesan is similar to pecorino in flavor, and honestly I don't taste it, but to each their own, I suppose. It'd be better to have it almost look like it's powder, but this is going to end up working. So I have the guanciale inside the pan here, and it's going to take a while. My water's already boiling, but I'm not going to throw my pasta in there yet because this is nowhere near where I want it to be, and we want to mix these things right when they're almost like exactly cooked perfectly. Okay, so you can see that it's rendering out the fat, starting to crisp up a little bit, and now I'm going to end up putting my pasta in. And when we cook the pasta, here in the United States we have a tendency to overcook it, but in Italy they kind of like it with, they'll call it al dente, which is really just a nice way of saying that it's got a little bit of bite to it. It almost tastes like it's underdone slightly. But we want this to cook to about, I would say, 90%, maybe 95% done, because the rest of the cooking is actually going to kind of happen in here, and it's going to absorb some of the sauce. And then for one person, that's about right there. So I'm going to throw that inside the water and just cook it according to the instructions, usually around 8 minutes or so. But it depends also it depends on how close you are to sea level. I'm right next to the ocean, so I'm at sea level, you know, but if you're like in Colorado or something, it might be, you might have to cook it a little bit longer. This is already starting to crisp up, so I'm actually gonna turn the heat down a little bit because I don't want this to burn. We're gonna be using the pasta water, and the more pasta that you make, the more starch is gonna be released in the water. So when we put that inside our egg and cheese mixture to temper it, the starch actually will help too. But we're going to be using pasta water in that, and we're going to be putting pasta water in this. We have to make sure that we put plenty of black pepper in here. Let me loosen this up a little bit. Black pepper is an important ingredient in this. So I'm going to put some inside here. Some people will put it on after everything is done. You can, but I'm going to call that good. And then also I had just turned off the fire for the guanciale because I don't want that to overcook. So next time you see this, we're going to be putting pasta water in it, and I'm going to call that good as far as the crispiness and everything like that. Keep the heat off here because don't want to overcook it. My pasta is really close to being done, so I'm going to use this as an opportunity to take a little bit of the pasta water, and I'm going to put it inside this, and I'm going to mix it up. And then by doing so, this is going to end up tempering the eggs, so they won't end up becoming scrambled eggs. And we're also going to end up using a little bit more pasta water. If I would have had made this cheese finer, this would look a lot more creamy. But like I said, this is going to melt just fine, okay? So on the guanciale, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the heat back on at the very lowest setting. At this point, I'm fine with the pasta wellness. I'm not really worried too much about the extra water, like I said, dripping off of it, because we need that anyway. And we can add more a little bit later down the line. But what we want to do is we want to put this in here, and we can't dilly-dally. We can't mess around because we don't want this to cook and turn into scrambled eggs. So we need to immediately start kind of moving this around. That cheese will melt. Everything's going to end up mixing with the oil on the bottom as well. But you can see that the cheese has pretty much melted. I really shouldn't be using metal tongs and a non-stick skillet, but I'm just trying to be careful here and not scrape the bottom too much. I'm using the pasta almost as an abrasive. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to end up putting it inside my little bowl full of egg and cheese to try to also get the rest of that out. Now, what we want to do is we want to kind of keep mixing this until the sauce thickens. Okay, it's kind of close already. It's kind of close already. Right now, some of it is evaporating. Okay, some of it is absorbing within the pasta because we took the pasta out before it was completely cooked. So we're going to lose some of that moisture in both of those locations. But if it absorbs in the pasta, fantastic. I am really close right now. In fact, it's time to serve that. I have a little bit more in there, might as well get it. This is the remainder of the pasta. And now what we're going to do is we're going to put the guantanade on top. This is the reason why people think that there's cream in it, because when it comes out, it looks like there's cream in it, but there isn't any. And if you want to, you could sprinkle a little bit more pecorino on that. And also, if you want to, you could also end up putting some more black pepper on top. And there you go, guys. That's your traditional carbonara. And if you like this video, hit like, hit subscribe, all the other good stuff.
Good. It's rich with all the cheese and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's hearty. It's like this thing would fill. I think this thing would fill you up well. Yeah, I like the How do you say it? Concelli? How do you say it?
Like you're saying Guantanamo Bay, so it's like
Chale.
I think you're saying Guanciale. I think that's how you say it.
Guanciale. Oh, I don't know.
Like Charlie from Guantanamo Bay.
Mm.
Anyway, guys, that's that. If you liked the video, hit like, hit subscribe, all the other good stuff. And until next time, talk to you later.